So this is a new podcast studio for me. You are the first person to record in the studio.
Breaking it in.
This is episode 406 of my podcast. And regardless of how long a person has been doing something, that doesn't mean that you actually know anything. Every day is a learning experience.
I love it.
And you got to work through these things.
Things happen, things change.
Especially if you decide that you want to pursue any form of art as a career, or even more so, like a lifestyle, a big thing, a big part of what you're going to put your time and energy and love and thoughts and feelings into involves creativity. I think that you need to understand that a large majority of that is out of your control.
Definitely.
Where do you...
And there's a lot of trial and error.
Yes, a lot of trial and error.
All that type of stuff.
So I'm saying all of that because, yes, the room doesn't look great yet, but it will
improve.
It will improve. Just be patient. It may take me a few episodes, but we'll get there together. The quality of the content will be the same. It may not look as good, but it'll still have the same heart, the same emotion,
the same feel,
the same feeling, and all of that. So thank you all for being patient with me while we work through this. And now I'm going to do my intro. Hello and welcome to Start the Beat with Sykes. My name is Sykes and this is my podcast. Before we get started, I just wanted to take a quick moment to thank everyone who checked out the conversation. If you're one of those people, thanks so much for coming back. But for everyone who's welcome, blah, 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 blah. Everyone who's new to the show, thank you for being here. That's not how it goes. Fuck it. Feel free to make yourselves at home. And as always, there's beer and soda in the fridge. I could use a beer, but Daddy's drinking water because it's Sunday and he's staying out of trouble. Cheers.
Cheers.
That was all messed up. Hey, what are you going to do?
You made it through.
Thank you. So I'm sitting here today with a human being that I'm pretty sure I've met you at some point in time.
We've met a couple of times, I think.
We've definitely met, but I don't think we've like really chatted too much.
Yeah, this is the first real conversation, I think.
Yeah. So thank you for taking the time to be here.
Thanks for inviting me to your humble abode.
Now, two questions. Do you prefer Nick or Nicholas?
That's actually a good question because I'd like my full name. I actually do. So when people do call me Nicholas, I don't mind at all.
Yeah, there's something. So like, when like, we're checking out you and your aesthetic, the hair, ponytail, nice shirt, badass necklace. I don't get anything Nick about you, but Nicholas 100%. 100%.
I think it fits. It works. So let's go with it.
Yeah. So question number 2. How does anyone pronounce your last name? Can I try before I butcher it?
I would prefer that you do.
Okay.
Let's hear it.
So I don't have it written down in front of me right now, but from memory, thinking about like Facebook, I think it would be something like Hufnagel.
Really close.
Okay.
Hufnagel.
Okay.
Or
so
if you're German, Hufnagel.
Nice.
Yeah.
That
Fun
sounds
fact.
like a pastry.
Not as exciting.
Are you a sweet treat, Nicholas?
Well, I'll let you decide.
So
that.
Nicholas Hufnagel.
Fun fact, it actually translates to horseshoe nail.
Okay.
So take that for what it is.
Very cool. Well, make some noise for the internet. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So for anyone who doesn't know Nicholas, you are a musician and you seem like a pretty wholesome one at that.
I try.
There's, sometimes you run into some more, people in the arts and entertainment world, especially in the realm of rock music, where I believe you tend to dwell. I know it's not exclusively rock, but you live in those circles. Not always the most wholesome individuals in those places, but also some of the nicest people in the world. And I think you're on the category of nice. So what makes you a nice person in this yin yang spectrum of rock and roll?
What makes me a nice person?
Yeah. Why? Why do you lean towards the light side?
Nice? I mean,
why?
there's so many things that you could be upset about and you could just be negative about. But I mean, I think it takes more strength to see the positive light in things and help others, especially too. I always like getting involved with other activities, other bands too. Good friends of mine, Winter's Descent, Jerry Mulligan, you know them.
Yeah.
They were recording some music. They have an EP coming out. They released their single, so they hit me up asking me to record drums on it, and immediately,
yeah,
hell yeah, you know.
So I do want to throw this out there. Fortune, the track that was released. I really think that your performance on that track took it to like another level. The rhythm stuff on it is so cool. The feeling on it is so good. And like, I'm at this point when I listen to drummers play, it's really easy to tell if like somebody's just trying to play a song or play like the song. And I feel like you were really like walking into all of the little nuance and putting a lot of stuff into it.
Yeah,
a drummer's drummer. A drummer's drummer.
A drummer's drummer.
Yes.
I mean, I have been playing drums for a while. But it was a great opportunity. I was really excited to work with those guys and really dig into those drum parts, like nitpick at every little note. And we worked with Sid Riggs, who is amazing at what he does. He's a genius, like one of the most wholesome guys you'll ever meet. I know you've had him on the show.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so it was a great opportunity, and he's a drummer / producer, so it was great to work on those drum arrangements with him, those drum parts that we wrote in the studio, and get them knocked out. So we're sharing ideas back and forth. He's running out of the booth, and he's like, "Hey man, try this note instead of this note, or this drum here, and do this." And he's getting all excited about what we're doing. And then it's getting me all excited, and then it was just positive energy all around. And Jerry and the guys are back there just watching it all unfold. And you know, I'm just in the zone. It was a long weekend, but yeah, we actually got 5 tracks done. I don't know if I was supposed to say that. I don't know what their release plans are, but they're still
fucking sue us.
Sue me, Jerry. But yeah, so
we all get T-shirts that just say "Sue me, Jerry" on them.
Sue me, Jerry. We started a new side project called Sue Me Jerry.
All right, yep, I'm in it. All right, I'm down.
We're starting a band.
Cool, perfect, done. You heard it here first. So, you know,
yeah, I'm really excited to hear the rest of the songs, like finished product, like Fortune is now.
Yeah. So you mentioned, you know, playing drums with different projects and having this positive energy, and I kind of brought up like I could tell that like you put a lot of thought into at least what you're doing with the Winter's Descent stuff. I'm not like familiar with your entire catalog of music, but in terms
I
of,
should mention my band is Big Atlantic.
Yes,
so,
yes.
You know, I'm here like going on and on about like Jerry's band, and I always forget that I'm in a band myself. I do so many things, you know.
Yeah.
I have people like I'll be having a conversation with somebody, and then someone else will chime in and be like, you know, he's in a band, and it's like, oh yeah, that's right. You know, I'm in a band. I forgot.
Yeah. So you know, Big Atlantic is also a rock band. I wouldn't say it's not as like. Winter's Descent exists on that like rock metal sort of.
Yeah, they're kind of like I kind of label them like an alternative metal band. They're
sure.
not like metal, like your Grey Walker.
I would say sure, yeah. I would say they're like radio metal, but not in like a negative way. And if sometimes I could come off in the wrong way.
It works for them.
But yeah, totally. I think that they have like that sound really, really locked in. And Big Atlantic is still a band that exists in the rock realm, but I think it really sticks more like into more traditional classic elements of rock.
Yeah,
right.
Definitely for a while has like Zeppelin roots, you know, like the Who, like that kind of stuff, especially on our Tempered record that came out 4 years ago now.
Yeah.
2017. But we're actually in the studio working on some new stuff, and it's good.
Nice. So
I'm really excited to get that stuff finished up and get it out there for you guys to hear.
So you're primarily a drummer with like a rock background, but I can hear like, at least in like the elements of the stuff that you put into that Fortune track, like I can hear a lot more of like a groove, like almost like somebody that digests more like jazz or reggae possibly, and like all of these sorts of things, right?
Yeah, that's funny you should say that, because I'm a huge, and everybody I know knows this, I'm a huge fan. Like my number one favorite band's 311.
Okay.
And they're like the kings of mixing genres, right?
Yeah.
So everyone knows the song Amber, but if you really dive into their catalog, they have a lot more heavy music. They mix funk, rap, reggae, hip hop, like rock, obviously, and some jazz even. But So like I have a lot of roots from growing up listening to them. I was in a 311 tribute band. Geez, we haven't played in a while, but I wouldn't even really say that the band like broke up. We kind of just stopped playing. We all went our own ways. You know, a couple of guys, one guy's got kids, you know, other guy just got married. So we're all kind of like living our own lives.
Yeah.
And that was around the time we stopped playing that I joined Big Atlantic. We played at Hard Rock one time, and Big Atlantic actually opened for the 311 tribute. So I was like opening for myself.
Nice.
But yeah, so and that whole crew of bands, there's 311, another great band, Ballyhoo. They're from Maryland. They're actually coming to Jurgles in September.
Cool.
I think it's September. No. It's August.
Okay.
I want to get that date right because everyone listening should go to Jurgles and see Ballyhoo. They're phenomenal. Like they label themselves punk rock reggae sex music, and it is just like the party, like the coolest party of a show.
Cool.
And yeah, and it's all like all those bands, Ballyhoo. You have the Movement, Iration, Tropodelics, another really cool band, and that whole crew. But they're all like really reggae driven, positive vibes and everything. So like that's really like where my musical taste for what I listen to more so comes from. But all those rhythms and everything that comes out in like the rock stuff that I play.
Who would have guessed?
But it's funny you mentioned that.
Yeah.
So
well, I think that it's very, very it's very, very evident in your playing, and I think it makes a lot of sense. And I'm curious, like in terms of your backgrounds and becoming a musician, you know, was this stuff? Because I mean, 311's been a band since, I imagine we're probably close to the same age. I'm 36. I don't know. You're 34. In 34, right? Yeah. So we grew up. Those are bands that we grew up with, right? Was that like something where like you started listening to that kind of music? Or just different styles of music as a kid and then picked up drums? Or was it like you start picking up drums and then you start finding rhythms that you like to play, and that's what introduces you into different styles of music?
Well, I started drumming when I was 8. So my dad was a drummer. He got my older brother playing drums. And actually growing up when I was younger, I kind of I didn't really listen to like mainstream radio all that much. I mainly listened a lot to like the bands that my brother was recording and playing with, because he'd always be passing his stuff down to me. So like that's kind of the stuff that I would listen to more so when I was younger. And then I'd say probably like around high school is when I like discovered 311 and more bands like in that genre that really just kind of changed my life. The first song I heard was Homebrew, and it's just the rhythms from the guitars and the drum just meshed, and even the rhythms and the vocals, just like my mouth dropped. You know, it just like sucked me in, and being really rhythm driven from playing drums all my life, since I was 8. I did band in school, like marching band's a big part of my life. So I went to Montour High School. I was in their marching band, and I was in Pitt's marching band as well. So drumline's like it, but I actually instruct Montour's drumline now.
Oh, cool.
15 years deep with that gig.
Nice.
And it's actually, I know you said this is going out like a little later. So at the moment that this is being recorded, it's actually Bandcamp week. So I'm like, we're doing this, and then I'm all week 8 to 8 with the kids in the sun, and you know, getting their show, they're on the field and everything. So it's an absolute passion job, and I'm blessed to still have that and be able to have that a part of my life.
Yeah. So, you know, with learning how to play drums, deciding that you are going to like make this like your life, rhythm is going to be your life. You lucked out in some sort of a way, or maybe you didn't luck out, but like in terms of like now, like with like the Montour school stuff that you're doing, was that something that you like seeked out to do, or was that like an opportunity that like fell into your lap?
In a way, it was kind of both. When I graduated, I was still pretty involved with it. You know, they do summer practices, and I was going back and hanging out and helping them out with stuff. And then what was this, 2 years after I graduated, they got a new band director. And it turned out that it was someone that I was in the marching band with, a couple years older than me. And she immediately hit me up and asked me if I wanted to be her drumline instructor, and seeing that I was already still around and helping them out and stuff. So I immediately took that opportunity, and I've been running with it ever since. But it's great because I get to write their show music, which that's going to be tonight into tomorrow. I'm probably not going to sleep much tonight.
Cool.
But they get drum arrangements, and then I rewrite some of their drum parts that they play on the field, and Yeah, it's just I absolutely love doing it. And the absolute 100% best part is every single year, these kids come in and it's like a brand new fresh start. They all new music, all new, starting over from scratch. And you get to see these kids come in, and a lot of them are new. Every year there's new kids, and people graduate, but they all come here with this common bond. With they're in band and they like music, and then they all meet each other, and they kind of grow into like a family, and it's really cool to see them and where they start and where they struggle, and to see them grow as drummers, musicians, to be able to later on perform and play things that at first they couldn't do.
Yeah.
And that's my absolute favorite part of it all. And I get to see that happen every single year.
Now, I have a question regarding popular culture and how that infiltrates, if at all, the way that kids come into drumline and approaching what their understanding of rhythm is. Because, everybody's exposure to music when they're growing up is through popular culture, right? But like every year there's some new different thing. There's different styles of music and things like that. And you've been doing this, you said now you're 15 years into this gig, right?
Yeah.
So over the course of that decade and a half, have you seen like any fundamental changes about like the way people come into approaching like their instrument as a result of like different styles of music? Do people have different understandings of what things are, or is it all just based on the same kind of shit that you've been playing for like ever?
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know how to word that question.
I don't really see it evolve so much in the styles or their influences in music, as much as, because marching band's kind of its own animal and its own style in itself.
Yeah.
So they're coming in and kind of learning that, and yeah, I don't really see too much change, at least over the years, in any kind of attitude or anything like that based on popular culture changing. The kids' interests outside of marching band and whatnot, they'll change. Like now they're all over TikTok, and I am fighting it so hard. I'm like, I'm not doing TikTok. I don't have one.
Then don't do it.
They got the band director doing it now. She's all excited about it. She's putting TikToks up, and the kids are all watching her. And I'm like, I'm not even gonna bother.
Totally.
So I'm like on Facebook and Instagram, and like that's enough for me right now. My phone goes off all day, every day, and it's
it's a lot.
But it's cool. I mean, you definitely see some cool stuff on there, and there's a lot of talent out there that gets exposed. So it's really cool to see that.
So in terms of there not being a whole lot of change in the idea of what like marching band is and the way that it exists, the way marching bands exist in popular culture, I guess I've always kind of served the same thing. As somebody that has musical aspirations outside of marching bands, somebody that is into like genre fluid music and different styles of playing, do you ever find yourself like wanting to like somehow challenge the status quo of what a marching band should be? Like somebody they would make some like silly movie about in 20 years. Do you see yourself being that guy? Or do you like, or do you like kind of embrace the traditions of what like a marching band is?
It's definitely very tradition driven.
Yeah.
Because you have, especially at once, where you have people that come back and return that maybe were in the marching band in March like 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago, and it's cool for them to come and see, and things do change, times change, and maybe sometimes the way things are performed certain ways might change and evolve just over time. But it's really cool to see these people that are, well out of the band from the time they were in it, come and be able to see these kids, like some of the things, at least like, marching band comes out before football games and does a pregame performance. And there's elements of that still date back to like back in the 80s. You'll have parents and older people come out and watch the show, and they get to see these kids doing what they did when they were in school. And there's even a connection there that's really cool to see.
Yeah. So with your life and balancing, work and life and pleasure, it's all kind of like morphed together in some way for you, hasn't it?
It really has. So I do a lot, and I don't even know how I can keep up with it. So I'm in Big Atlantic.
Yes.
And we're writing and recording music at the moment. Winter's Descent was kind of a gig. I played a show with them. They did a live stream for the SOS 2020.
Yeah.
It was a really cool opportunity. So that was fun. So I was able to, perform with them. It was the first time I performed actually since 2019.
I normally don't do things like this, but I just want to say, because Jerry's probably watching.
You know Jerry's gonna watch this.
You know Jerry's watching this. The only reason you guys got that gig is because I told him to book you. Boom. So you played it. That you're welcome.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was really rude of me. I'm sorry. But no. I was glad that you guys got to play that show.
It was
because
fun, man. It was a good time.
Yeah.
They had it put together really, really well.
Yeah. Anyways, so you do that.
Oh yeah. So I do stuff like the Winter's Ascent. I've been working down a little bit at Tonic Recording Studios down in McKeesport, doing session drumming. I just did a gig, a couple songs for these guys that hit me up last week, and I actually just got to hear that come back. The drum tracks just yesterday, and it's awesome. It's cool to go in there and like do that and then hear it come back, and it's their project too. So they brought me into their project, and they have this vision for their project, and then I jump in, and my ideas for the drum parts and whatnot actually get sort of inspired in certain ways by what I'm doing on the drums, and they start kind of changing what they're doing in the songs, and it's cool to see it develop and evolve in that way too. But I'm down at Tonic doing drums. I'm into video and photography stuff. So another guy, I'm going to be shooting a music video with a guy that does rap. His name is Big Joss. I don't know if you've heard of him.
Mm-mm.
So he's been working down at Tonic on an album that's actually, he's kind of like into the mixing genre stuff too. This guy, he's good, man. He writes some good, like meaningful lyrics, and he's good at rhyming and flow, and he was out in LA like back in the day, like with Dr. Dre and all that stuff, and it's cool. He's from McKeesport originally, so he's back here, and he kind of took a break from the music scene and everything, and now he's getting back into it. But it's cool to meet him and be a part of that.
Yeah.
So like I'm in the video, and I try to get out and shoot. I was just out Led Zeppelin 2, a Led Zeppelin tribute band.
Yeah.
So Lee, my singer, and I, we have a friend named Fitzy. He's in a band called Bad Marriage. He was in town. So we all went up to Jurgles to see this Led Zeppelin tribute band, and I was able to shoot photos for the show. So that's something like I got Bandcamp this week. Like I got like this whole list of things that I'm like, I got to get done, but it's like things keep rolling, and so like I got this whole list of things to do, and I'm excited to get those photos done and get this video done coming up soon. Big Atlantic's recording music. I'm kind of scatterbrained, man. I'm a little all over the place.
Yeah,
I love it. I absolutely love it because it keeps me busy. It keeps me involved with other people that are really positive, like-minded, and hardworking. It's a great experience, to be part of all those things.
I think that's you. I was going to ask you a question, but you already answered it, because I'm very similar in the sense that I wear a lot of hats. I'm always juggling things, trying to figure out how to make things work. Mm-hmm. But I love it. And like when people were like, how do you do so much? It's just like, I just want to do it.
Yeah.
And I always tell people, like, a lot of people sometimes like you think you want to do something, like you like the idea of doing it, but for whatever reason, maybe you don't do it. And not to be harsh, my viewpoint of that is like, well, I don't know if you really wanted to do it. I think if you really like love something and you really want to make something happen, you'll find a way to make it happen.
If you're passionate about something and you really are driven to do it,
yeah,
you're going to find a way to make it happen.
Like even there's, times where like, there's always, regardless of like band stuff that I'm doing or podcasts or vlogs or whatever, there's always, for every like thing that you end up seeing happen in public, there's probably like 2 or 3 other things that are just ideas that are never going to happen. Mm-hmm. And sometimes like when something really hasn't happened after like a year or 2, I kind of just have to tell myself like, I like the idea of this happening, but obviously I don't want to do it enough. Otherwise I would have done it. Cause sometimes like somebody that I wasn't even planning on recording a song for my friends in Dino Soul. Right. And they hit me up and I was like, I just want to do this. So I like somehow fit that into my schedule, a completely new project, but I just genuinely wanted to do it. And then there's other things that I've been trying to get done for like a year and a half, but I can't find the time. And it's like, okay, well, I just think that I ultimately just don't want to do this as much as I think that I do want to do it.
I think that's probably a good thing that should be practiced by a lot of people sometimes. Is it, I mean, if you're kind of interested in something and you, like you said, you just put it off and put it off and put it off, like maybe maybe you want to be interested in it more than you actually are.
Sure. It's like maybe it's not too dissimilar from you and TikTok, right?
There you go. Yeah, I'm just like, I mean, it's cool. It's cool. The kids
Yeah.
are into it, let them have fun. But it's just like, I don't know. I'm good. I'm good without it.
Yeah. The thing that I find interesting about TikTok is that it's obviously a different way to create a different kind of content.
Mhm.
And I do see value in, creating content that works for that platform, and you share it with like-minded people that like that content, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, I make like songs and I do hour-long podcasts. I don't do like minute goofy videos. So it's like the fundamental of what it is like, I don't do that content. I'm sure that I can mold that what I do to that platform, but then now I'm doing something that I didn't want to do to appease like an algorithm or a social media platform that I didn't really intentionally like want to be involved with. It just seems like too much work.
Mhm.
I'm just not interested.
Yeah.
But I'm happy it exists.
But to each their own, of course.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. I think that the thing that is like really interesting is like how there are musicians that are like really getting discovered off of TikTok. And it's interesting now that like somebody can hear 15 seconds of a song and decide that they like an artist.
Mhm.
The concept of that is bonkers to me.
Yeah.
Because like it's like I need to hear 15 songs of an artist before
on albums.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, the single that you hear on the radio, it isn't going to sound like everything else that's on the record.
Totally.
They're picking the thing that's most radio friendly to get you to listen to the record and hear the rest of the stuff. But yeah, it's everything. It's with bands. It's really single driven. I think with Spotify and playlists, and maybe short EPs. And I feel like the music industry is kind of heading more in that direction and straying away from like the full length album a little bit. But I still have I have a place in my heart for that. I love like the storytelling of a full album. Like listening straight through start to finish, not skipping around. And maybe it's just the way like I grew up listening to them,
Yeah, I'm the same way. I think that I don't mind a band releasing singles.
Mhm.
I don't mind a band releasing EPs. The one thing that I do really not like that a lot of bands do now is they'll release half of their album as singles before the album comes out.
And then
And like
heard half of it.
exactly. It's like, oh, this album from this band that I've been really looking forward to is finally out. And then you pull it up and you're like, I've heard
And all you
three-quarters
get
of
is
this.
a couple more songs.
Yeah, and they're like the duds. They're the ones that the
Yeah.
label didn't want to release as singles. And like I feel like cheated almost as a fan.
Mhm.
Cuz I think that like I remember I'm not to like romanticize nostalgia or anything, but like I remember like Korn put out a video. There's a new Korn song. So you get the one single for the album, but I got to wait until I can actually like get my ass to a CD store.
Yeah.
Get that
You had
album.
to physically go
Yeah,
there
you have to
and-
go
and
to
get
the
it in your
store.
hands.
Hope they had a copy of it.
Yeah.
Like I remember doing chores for my grandmother to save up money so I could sneak on the bus into Squirrel Hill to buy Follow the Leader the day it came out. And that whole time, I wasn't even sure if the record was going to be at the store.
Yeah. You just go and crossing your
But, yeah.
fingers, hoping for the best.
But yeah, I got it. And then I don't know. I guess there's like a value to that because now
There's an experience involved.
I got to wait until I get home to even listen to it.
You have all that excitement.
Yeah.
pumped up,
You're just like
yeah.
looking at the CD booklet the whole time and all that stuff. And
Maybe reading the lyrics before you even heard the songs.
and like, I'm not one of these like anti-Spotify people. Like I definitely use Spotify and it is very convenient to be like, oh shit. Like, there's
Everything
a
is
new
so
St. Vincent
accessible.
record. Let me
Yeah.
check it out. But I cannot lie and say that it hasn't unintentionally kind of devalued the release of new music
Mhm.
to me. Cause I'm like, oh, okay. Like I'll check that out later.
And you can put it off because it's always going to be there waiting for you.
Yeah. And next thing you know, I've put off a band for 3 years and then they put out 3 albums and I'm like, what the hell? Well, there's a band called Proto Martyr that I really, really like. And for whatever reason, I just stopped thinking about them for a few years. and I was in Michigan at a record store, and I was flipping through, and I was like, oh, cool, they got some Proto Martyr records. I'm like, what is this? What's this? There's like 4 albums that I had no idea existed. It was like, oh yeah, it's been 5 years since you listened to them, but they've been putting out new music, and now I'm like, how the fuck am I gonna?
Now you got to play catch up.
Yeah, that just seems daunting to me.
Now it's work.
Yeah, it's too much, and I don't know. I mean, these are very, very, very silly problems, but
Absolutely, but it's fun to talk about them.
Yeah. It definitely has an effect on the way that I digest music now.
Yeah, I think it's like that for everyone. It's especially like, look at our youth that they don't know what it's like to go to a record store and pick up the CD and like the experience you just talked about. Like that's all they know. So what's it going to be like at a time where there's this whole other new thing that I can't even imagine, when they're having conversations like we are about how they listen to music, and it's just funny to see like how things evolve, and it's like, what's going to come next?
Yeah, I think,
is it going to keep heading more in that direction, or is it somehow going to flip around? Because I know, like, I mean, there's a lot of nostalgia in like actual albums, the vinyls that a lot of bands are releasing. So it's almost like, as it's heading in that direction one way, it's kind of splitting off and heading into like the album, like the nostalgia out of that, and it's like it's kind of like splitting that way.
Yeah,
I'm curious to see, like, is it going to keep where's it going to keep going?
I think that it's interesting because having this conversation, we could have had this same conversation a decade ago, but it wouldn't have felt as like dramatic as it does now. And I think that kids these days,
when I
think the way that they're digesting music, I think like the fundamental feeling and what they're getting from that music, listening to a song on TikTok or Spotify, is really no different than us listening to it on the radio or on a Discman or however.
Still in there.
I think the heart of it is still there. It just seems different. The only thing that is like interesting to me is like the value in music and what it takes to actually kind of like monetize your craft and how that's changing. I think that if you are an independent artist and you're releasing your music digitally and you're getting a lot of streams, you can make a pretty decent penny off of that. And the opportunity to share your music with the world is a lot easier now than it was back then. Like,
definitely
you don't need
has a lot of ups and a lot of accessibility.
I think that if you can manage the business correct and also write good songs, which is the most important thing,
number one,
I think you can be pretty successful using modern means of distribution through digital things like that. Because even with stuff like Grey Walker and Normal Creatures, which are 2 bands that I play in, right? Like, we don't get a phenomenal amount of streams online. We're like mid-tier local bands, right? Yeah. But we've like paid for entire studio sessions. Like the EP that Grey Walker put out was paid for 1000% from our Spotify streams before that. So it's like, okay, like, we're not living off of this, but the band can live off of these streams. And again, our numbers aren't crazy, but like, we don't go through like a weird third party or anything. We just upload the stuff ourselves. We manage all of that shit, and the income comes. So I can't imagine being an artist who's independent, but getting like, hundreds of millions of streams. Like, that's a pretty decent chunk of change. Yeah. But the songs have to be good. And I think that that's something that does get overlooked now, because as an artist, you can't just be like a musician anymore. Like, you should have a TikTok account, and you got to know about business. You got to know all this other stuff. And it's like, okay, but like, when is the time for songwriting happen? And I think that there are a lot of people that kind of sidestep that because they want to be on tour right now. They want to have a music video right now. They want to look good on Instagram. But it's like, how about how you sound as a band? Like, it's really easy to look good online, but that doesn't mean that your band sounds good.
Yeah, and when those people come and see you, if your band's not on that level on stage, then what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like that's number one. The
And-
song's got to be good, and you got to be able to perform them well. I mean, if you're the live band, type. I mean, a lot of bands are strictly like studio bands where they're not really putting emphasis on their live shows. They're putting songs out mainly just to be listened to.
And that's
And
one.
that's fine too.
Yeah.
But if you're going for that whole the touring and you want to put on a good performance, your song's got to be good, but you got to be able to deliver what you're selling online.
Yeah, I think that one thing that I have noticed with youth culture is I don't think they really give a shit about how music is made. I don't think that it matters to them as much if it's like, even in a live aspect. I think, there's a lot of youth culture where like they're latching on to almost the personality and the social media aspects of a lot of these musicians, right? And the song, the live performance doesn't matter as much. Like, it could just be on a backtrack. People could be pretending to play. They don't care. It's more about like the lifestyle of that person that they seem to enjoy as a whole, versus like me. Like, I still am this way. Like, I really don't want to know anything personal about any musician that I listen to. Like, I'm not interested in that.
Yeah.
I don't need to know the behind the scenes of all this stuff, it's kind of interesting that I do a podcast. It's kind of hypocritical for me to like talk to people. That's what
with all this.
But it's like, but like, these are also like, like talking with people like you and other people I have on the show. It's like getting to know other artists. I think it's a little different because like, that's from me as an artist. I think I do this podcast as like, it's an artist to artist. It's not like fan to artist, but like for things that I'm a fan of, like, I don't want to know how the nuggets are made. Like, just give me the nugget.
You kind of yourself, like me, have an eye inside that already and an understanding of how that works too. So that may be different for a typical fan that isn't a musician, that doesn't know all that behind the scenes stuff. So it's really, I guess, like another one of those like to each their own kind of thing.
Yeah.
And maybe those fans are more driven to find that and see what that behind the scenes stuff's like, what that lifestyle is like, what process goes into that, more so than a musician that kind of goes through that themselves.
Yeah. How has like the transition for you from, obviously starting out as a musician and a fan of music, you start getting into the business side of things, you get behind the curtain. Has there been anything that's really changed the way that you observe or digest music as a fan as a result of like being behind the curtain? Is it harder for you to like just enjoy things now? Because
I think it's part of being a musician is when you're at a show seeing a band. I mean, I think every one of us is guilty of, analyzing the show,
absolutely,
the performance, and like whether it's the stage presence, whether it's what they're actually playing, how clean or tight it is. You end up like, I catch myself all the time. I'll sit there and I just like start staring like,
all
at
the
drummer,
time,
and I'm like watching for things, or it's like watching for little slip ups or anything.
Look, people will be like, "Is something wrong?" Like, this is just how I enjoy things.
At the show just rocking out, and I'm just like,
that's just how I enjoy things. Yeah, I'm the same way.
I'm enjoying it. Trust me.
I was the same way.
But you learn that way too.
Yeah.
That helps you become a better musician, seeing what they do. Maybe you learn something from watching them that it's happening.
Even when I went to Disney World a couple years ago, and I was the same way the entire time there, because the whole thing's a production, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So like
to the extent that they don't call their employees, they call them cast members.
Yeah.
All of them.
Yes. I was just like looking at every little thing, like, how do they do that? How do they do this? I can't get lost in the magic. It's like everything is happening for a reason, and I want to know what that reason is. And it's like, just have fun. And I'm like, this is fun.
Yeah. It's like, trust me, I'm having fun. I might not look like it, but I am.
Yeah. But also, I think sometimes it can be annoying because if somebody asks me what I think of a certain thing, I'll probably, sometimes people will just kind of, when they ask you like, oh, like, what'd you think of the show? What'd you think of that movie? What'd you think of Disney? They kind of just want you to be like, oh, it was really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, then they're not asking for a 25-minute tirade about the overuse of visual projectors in the theme park that I'm going to give you. That's I'm bad about that sort of things. But you know,
real intricate in the details that they probably didn't even notice.
It's just like, I'm going to get worked up thinking about this now. It's just seeing so many adults be amazed by projectors. We've had projectors for a very long time. That's literally what they're just taking what they use to project movies and putting it onto fucking water.
Yep.
Wow. Everybody's, it's so beautiful. I'm like, yeah, it looks cool, but it's also super lazy. It's super lazy.
I mean, it works.
Disney World is fun, but it's fucking lazy. I wish that I was.
There is a lot of laziness around.
Yeah. It's just like it amazes me with the amount of money that a company like that has and the amount of money that I mean, I paid to go there, so I know how much money they're taking from people that are going there, right? That like all of these things, like somehow like technology ruined Disney World. I'll say that. Technology has helped a lot of things. Technology is ruining theme parks because they're turning everything into projectors and like automating things. And I don't know. I mean, maybe in some ways to get back on track, this is happening with music too. As a drummer, you know, somebody that's in the rock world, it's not too uncommon now for a lot of bands in the studio to just use like, you know, like sound replacements and drums and all that sort of stuff. The technology sounds so good now. Yeah. And I imagine as somebody who is a player, there has to be some sort of like a weird, what is your relationship with this sort of stuff? Right.
I mean, it's work too. I mean, when you get to record drums in the studio, like it's not just go in there, set up the drums and hit play or hit record.
Yeah.
You know, it's a 3-hour process, you know, setting up the mics, making sure they're all good, getting all the levels right and getting that good full sound, you know, through the board. It's like 3 hours before you even like play the first note of the song, you know, and you're sitting there banging on the snare drum, bang, bang, you know, just getting sounds, kick drum, boom. It's like a sound check on stage, but it's like 10 times longer.
Yeah.
Cause it's like crack. It's like nudging every little knob, like getting it exactly where you want it to be. So that, I mean, at least when we do it, you know, we're trying to get the drum sound as close to the final product as we can. Cause
sure,
like you mentioned,
fix it in pre.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Fix it in pre.
Yeah.
Cause I mean, we do have that traditional, like sound and vibe to us with Big Atlantic where it's like an old school kind of thing. Like we want to record the drums. We want the drum sound that we record to be on the record. And I mean, we don't want to, you know, end up throwing drum samples over top of everything. And it's like, what do we even put the drums in there for?
Yeah.
You know, we could just grab the samples and cut and paste parts in there. But we like it to be as natural as we can. And I think that's one thing that I mean, I feel like we put extra effort into that. And I think that's one little detail that kind of sets us aside and it makes our sound stand out.
It's interesting. And like you would hope that people hear that, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's funny because like, I remember the first Greywalker full length that we did. We were very adamant about, live everything. That was what we wanted. Like we have guys that can play. Let's just fucking play and record it, you know, kind of like a punk rock ethos to it. Right. But the interesting thing about the people that listen to that style of music, which would be more, like a more extreme metal, modern production has, not been kind to traditional recording techniques in that genre of music. Yeah. And a lot of fans of that style of music aren't used to hearing what like normal drums sound like, because everything is sound replaced and triggered and quantized to like create a sound that is super tight and like very intense. You almost need to use those techniques to get it to sound so like in a studio setting, right? But I remember like getting comments about our EP, or it was a full length at the time, like sounding cheap as a result. And I'm like, it just sounds like people in a room playing. Like, this is what we sound like. But it's like for like heavy metal listeners, modern heavy metal listeners now, like they want to hear the production.
Yeah.
So, you know, now we've tried to figure out a way of like, how can we still track live, but like mix in that those elements of modern production. So it sounds good to like both sides of the coin. Right. Because we also exist in this weird realm where like, you know, we play shows. It's like a lot of the time when Grey Walker plays a show, it's not uncommon for us to either be like the old guys on the bill or the young kids. And like, we're all in our 30s. So we're just like stuck in the middle, right? Like either playing with like teenagers that are into like whatever the kids are into now, or playing with guys that are a decade above us, but you know, they don't want to hear our fucking young metal stuff. And it's like our inspirations are bands that have been active for over 2 decades, and we're still somehow like the young guys. I remember, we were playing a show in Indianapolis, and like there was somebody that was just like, yeah, you know, you guys are doing all that growly stuff, and I don't think that stuff's gonna last very long. And I'm like, you know, the first Cannibal Corpse album came out like 27 years ago, and they're still a touring band, right? Like very, 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 very successful. And they're not even like,
this is just a phase.
Yeah, it was interesting. But there are some people that are like that. That guy's probably been saying that to people for the past 25 years.
He's like, it's got to get out of here someday.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to be right.
Yeah, it's interesting. And man, so, you know,
it's cool to see like how genres kind of evolve in that way too. I guess that kind of ties the Disney conversation, you know, with all the production and everything, and how you said, you know, that's kind of like the music production side of things. Seeing like how, you know, even in some of the stuff we're doing, like we're throwing some synthesizers and stuff, and a couple of like electronic sounds, and we're trying to kind of modernize the sound a little bit, but still keep those roots of like that traditional rock and roll and you know, what we grew up liking, and like you said, we're trying to do the same thing, find that nice equilibrium, you know, with our new sounds. And it's tricky to not go too far into the production, and not, like, you start going down the rabbit hole, and you got to catch yourself, and it's like, well, hold on, let's tone it down a little bit, like let's revisit and like think about like what it is we really want to accomplish here, and before we start piling everything on top of it, and then it's gonna sound fake.
I have a really hard time with that, because when I'm writing songs in the studio, we have so much influence. This is mostly with Normal Creatures, right? Because we bring so much to the table from our influences, and like we want it to sound like nothing else. Like we want what we're doing to just be like this weird mixture of all these styles, but it has to make sense. And trying to like figure out, when are you going too far? Because like usually the idea of going too far excites me, but also there's still a cliff to go over. So it's like, how do you
challenge yourself and see what kind of thresholds you can push, but you gotta make sure that it's still gonna be listenable to the average listener.
It's like a deep sea diver going further than is suggested. Yeah. But you might discover something that would be really cool, or the song might fucking drown. Yeah, exactly. So it's like always in that murky areas where I like to, a thrill seeker. That's what I'm trying to do. And the interesting thing, like, you know, tying back to Disney and modern production and old school things, it's just like,
real quick on Disney, that new Star Wars ride is awesome.
Which one? The Rise of the Resistance, or the
Rise of the Resistance? I got a chance last February to get on that, and
nice.
That was awesome.
So
had to get to the park like an hour before it opened.
Oh yeah,
to get a spot.
To get a boarding pass.
It still took like, I think it was like 6 o'clock in the evening before we got on it.
Jesus Christ.
It was great.
When we were in Galaxy's Edge in Orlando, the Rise of the Resistance hadn't opened yet. Like Galaxy's Edge had pretty much just opened when we were there. So we got to do the Falcon ride, and that was cool.
I did that one too. That was
but
I was terrible. I think I was flying.
I was flying too.
And I couldn't, by the end of the ride, I was like, I still don't have it figured out.
Yeah. I felt really bad, because it was like me and my girlfriend and some other people. And I was like, I just wish somebody else would have flown this thing. Like, I'm very much like, I just kind of like to experience things. I don't want to actually be in control of something.
Yeah.
And that,
and when there's other people, the rides like that, when there's other people involved with the experience too, and they want to experience it well too, like have a good experience, and like you're the one guy that's like just cannot figure out how to like do your thing, and you keep crashing or whatever it is.
yeah.
And you're just like wrecking and you waited in line probably like an hour and a half to do this thing.
Sure.
And you're just like sitting there like, I'm just ruining this for everyone.
Yeah. But I mean, like realistically, what are the odds that they would have been able to figure it out?
Yeah. Like whoever it might have been.
Yeah.
It was tricky, man. I was sitting there like,
I
don't even, it was a year and a half ago. I don't even really remember what it was. I just remember not being able to figure it out. And I was like, well, I feel like I ruined this for everyone.
But yeah, I mean, like, but the funny thing is like even that ride, essentially,
cool to be in the Millennium Falcon though.
It's really cool. It looks great, but essentially, you're just in a box with a giant TV screen, getting shook around.
Yep,
that's all, and that's what so much of this shit is. I know the Rise of the Resistance is much different. That's like almost like
you're actually like walking around through different things.
It's like 3 different rides basically all put together,
that's
right?
More of like an experience
totally
than a ride.
So like I'm really interested to check that out whenever I get a chance because it seems super cool. But most of the time you get a lot of the simulator shit because like Soarin' is pretty much the same as the Avatar Flight of Passage shit. Which is pretty much the same as Millennium Falcon. Like they're all essentially
something that's shaking you all around.
They're all essentially the same ride, right?
Yeah.
And that's the kind of shit that annoys me about Disney World because it's like they just find a way to just take like these simple tricks. Like, okay, also with Fantasmic, which is a really fun show that they do at Hollywood Studios. That's when like they were like spraying the water in the air and then doing like the projector stuff. And then at Animal Kingdom, when they do the whole Tree of Life thing, they're just projecting stuff onto the tree. So it's like there's all this use of just like projection mapping, which is like it's cool to see it once. But then you're there for like 4 days and all of the parks, you're like, oh, they do this everywhere. They do it on the castle. In Magic Kingdom, it's just project. It's just a building that looks cool, and then they project stuff from the movie. It's like it's the same trick over and over and over, and it just from a production standpoint, I understand the efficiency of it. It's great.
Like once it's done, it's done.
Yeah, it's done. It's done. You hit play. Easy to set up.
Time to go.
Easy to tear down.
I'm sure there's a lot more involved than just that, but it's,
and for the most part,
it's
I
not
think
like the Lion King show where everything's choreographed. And have you seen that at Animal Kingdom?
Yeah, and I think that there are people that to them it doesn't matter. They're not thinking about it, right? It doesn't matter if it's this awesome animatronic. Like the Yeti's been broke in Expedition Everest for like decades, right?
I love that ride.
Yeah,
I'll be honest. The first time I rode that, I got totally freaked out when it's going up and the track's broken and it just shoots you backwards.
Yeah,
but that was probably one of my favorite rides that time I went there.
But like the only people that even acknowledge that like the Yeti doesn't work are just nerds. Most people don't care about that stuff. So it's just like I know that they replaced it with like they put the projection of like the silhouette of the Yeti. Another projection.
There, like, when you're up there when the track's broken, you see that.
That's another like simple fix. And it's just like they just band-aid everything. Even in the Navi River Journey in Avatar, there's like that animatronic that's like really, really cool. But it wasn't working when we were there, so they replaced it with a projection. And like my brain is just like, why is everything projectors? And they just opened up that Mickey's Runaway Railway in the Chinese Theater Building in Hollywood Studios.
I don't think I saw that.
It's all projection.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just like you're in a car that goes through, but it seems cool because it's all like 2D old school Disney animation stuff. And you're kind of going through this universe thing, but I don't know.
But the technology side of it is kind of all.
It's all the same ride, just
in different
like
ways.
Yeah, and it's
like it moves you around. It gives you an experience, sensations that way, and you're just visually you're seeing something different each time.
It's like you ever see like I remember seeing a video on YouTube of somebody that pulled like 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 a bunch of like modern pop country songs
Mhm.
and put them all into a DAW on top of each other, and how like the formats
I know
completely
exactly what you're
lined
talking
up.
about. Yeah, it's cookie cutter, man.
It's like that, but with rides.
Yeah.
Like they just take the same thing and just give it a different coat of paint,
Mhm.
and it's a new ride.
It's like a different guitar tone. It's all the same structure though.
Yeah.
Top to finish.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
it
that's a good analogy.
bums me out,
Yeah.
but I'm gonna
It's
keep
still,
going.
I mean, it's still cool to go to Disney.
Sure.
It's an experience. It makes you feel like a kid.
Yeah.
So, but I totally, yeah, I get what you're saying with the cookie cutters, with the rides and everything.
Yeah. We're doing Universal in September.
No, I'm going in October.
No shit.
Yeah.
Cool.
How
and-
about this?
Okay.
This is actually a funny story.
Okay.
So, you know those sweepstakes you see online and stuff that, you know, it's like win a trip to Disney World or whatever it is, and you're like, nobody really wins those, right? So my mom sits on the computer and does all these sweepstakes all the time, right? So, and she puts her email address, my brother's email, my email address, you know, and she wins like gift cards and stuff like that all the time. She won a pair of skis one time.
Hell yeah.
She hits this was a Dairy Queen / Coca-Cola sweepstakes, and the grand prize was a 4-person all expenses paid trip to Universal Resort. And guess who won?
No shit.
Yeah, won the grand prize on that. So me, Lee, and Adriana, it's we're going down October, and yeah, those things actually are like legitimate. People actually win those grand prizes, and that's crazy because I would have thought like there's no way. And even when she told me like, hey, I got this email that I won this thing, and I was like, yeah, right. But as it went on, like it's booked, we're going. You know,
Fuck yeah. That rules.
yeah. So free trip to Universal. Can't
Well,
beat that.
hey, congratulations on that.
Thanks, Mom.
Do you know, outside of, it seems like, you know, you have an interest just in life outside of, you know, it's not all work. It's not all play, but you find a way to make, you know, something productive out of playing, and you find a way to make work fun and all of this stuff, right?
absolutely. And I
What's the, how's that?
I feel like I'm blessed that every actual job that I've ever had, you know, like to make money and pay the bills. You know, I've worked at Wendy's. My first job was Rita's Italian Ice. You know, when I was a teenager, I worked at a Hollywood Video, which I'm a movie nerd, so you know that was a fun job. But every job I had, even Wendy's, the people that I worked with were always enjoyable to work with, and that made it feel less like work. And right now I'm at T-Mobile, and again, it's the same thing. Like it's almost like every time I go to work, every day I go to work, it's like I'm going to hang out with my friends, you know. And being a nerd, you know, into technology and the phones and stuff. As much as I do feel like they're kind of like to an extent hurting society, you know, but I mean, that's my job, and it's like I'm going and hanging out with my friends every day when I go to work.
Yeah.
And so that's how I pay the bills. But I went on a tangent. I was going to say something else, and I ended up going on about work.
No, we were just talking.
But yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if you find a way to make money doing the things that you love to do and that you're passionate about, it feels less like work, you know, and it's just becomes something you love to do, and it kind of starts to support itself. A good example here is on top of everything else that I rattled off that I do, as far as teaching drums, I actually had this idea a couple years ago to sort of along the lines of teaching private lessons in music. I started a drum class. So it's like a group of kids all at once, and it's like a structured 12-week course where each day it's like we're working on this piece of music, and it's something I had an idea for about 3 years. I worked on like setting this up, and it was hurdles as far as like what location I was going to be able to do it. You know, am I going to be able to get the kids and the, you know, parents to want them to do it? And what equipment am I going to use and whatnot?
Yeah.
But it went off. Was it April? I actually did it. I got it launched, and I was lucky that a church was able to let me use their location for it too every week. And so 12 weeks, the kids absolutely loved it. And it was just like, you know, the marching band experience. It's cool to see these kids come in and watch them improve and see them get excited when like they figure something out that maybe they didn't understand before. But that's like another venture that's going to continue on, and I'm hoping to grow too. But yeah, I mean, it all kind of ties together, you know. Even I was talking about 311, they're like, their motto is stay positive and love your life, right? And I think it's important to understand that, you know, being positive, like having a positive mindset about things, isn't simply just like being happy and cheerful and bubbly all the time, because, you know, we all have struggles, you know, we have ups and downs. But the key to, you know, having a positive mindset is refusing to be defeated by those downfalls and negatives. And if you can find a way to persevere through those things, and see that, and understand and know that there is always a light at the end of the tunnel, you know, if you push through, I think that's really like the biggest key is, you know, just having that positive outlook on things, and that positive understanding of what being positive really means.
Sure. The thing that, so, I spent a long time having a terrible temper.
Mhm.
It's still something I have to deal with from time to time. I am definitely somebody that embraces positivity and empathy, and I try to be patient, but I am not very good at it all the time. But the point that I'm trying to make here is that I tend to like find positivity works for me when I like combine it with a sense of reality and kind of grounding myself in the moment. Like earlier at the start of this, I was having issues with the lighting in this new space.
And you were
I don't
probably
think
frustrated. You know, I drove out here for this,
I
and
was-
you're
yeah.
like, "Oh man, he's gonna like."
I'm a little
He's gonna
frustrated,
be mad because he probably expected me to be ready to go, and now I'm still setting everything
but
up.
also
cool.
it's like it's just a couple of ding dongs talking about life.
Yeah.
This isn't, you know, Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
This isn't, I don't know why when I thought of a movie that's shot well, this isn't Avatar. You know, this isn't a Disney production. This isn't on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
You know, this is, it doesn't.
This is going to be watched by people on their smartphones.
Sure.
Some people on their computers.
Yeah.
And
The
like
white balance
the white
doesn't matter all that much. But like, so I need to tell myself like, okay, the reality of the situation is this isn't that big of a deal. And even outside of this, like, you know, all the stuff that, I mean, I guess it's pretty natural regardless of what you do as a human being. There's a good chance that the things that, you know, bring you some of your greatest joy are also going to bring some of your greatest frustrations, right? That's yin yang, whatever thing you subscribe to, right? But for me, it's like, wow, music and art is really important to me. This isn't life-threatening by any means. So if I ever have a hard time with a song, or if something goes wrong at a show, like I need to like really in the moment be like, okay, it's fine. We're just 30-year-olds on a stage in a smoky bar. And it's okay if it doesn't go good.
Yeah.
But also
you do have those moments where, you know, it almost feels like the end of the world.
Yeah.
Oh no, the lights aren't working. The whole podcast is ruined. And it's like, what? You know, you have that moment, but then like you said, you realize it's really not ruined. You know, it might not be like 100% up to, you know, the standards you want it to be at, but that's okay. Cause I mean, nobody's perfect.
I think that the only way to be able to find some sort of happiness in this world is to be able to embrace the concept of compromise and just be willing to go with the flow. Because the world's not designed to go your way, right? The world's going to do what it's going to do.
Things definitely do not always go as planned.
Yeah. And being in arts and entertainment, definitely. There's a lot of variables. I think I said that at the beginning of this conversation. It's just that you just got to, this is it. This is what this podcast is going to look like.
Yep. It is what it is. And it's going to be as good as it's going to be.
But we're still making it happen.
Earlier, as you said in the opening, though, this is really kind of like the worst that this setup in this room is going to be, because you're going to find ways to improve it, and it's going to get better and better. And that's everything in life is like that. If you look at it like that and you put that effort into the things that you do.
I think that there are those hurdles. It's funny. I mentioned, you know, episode 406.
Yeah.
But it's in a way, it's kind of like a first episode again, right?
Yeah.
And there's always going to be those hurdles when you're starting something new where it's not going to be perfect. And I think that being able to work through those things and being able to accept that, oh, this might kind of suck for a little bit, but figuring out what sucks is how you make things better. Like you didn't just sit down at a drum kit and probably like, oh wow, like I got all this good groove. It was probably a lot of very.
It took a little bit of time.
I'm sure.
You know, I'm 28 years in, and I'm still learning things myself. And I'm not by any means like the best drummer out there, but I mean, I'll sit down and sometimes there's something that I want to be able to play that I'm struggling with, but I mean, when you have an understanding of how to improve and the time that it takes to do those things, like yeah, I mean, there's always going to be someone better. There's always going to be something to strive for that maybe you're not quite there. But if you accept the level that you're at in the moment and know that if you keep trying and working, that you're going to get closer and closer to where you want to be. And that's something with art too, is there's no like full understanding of it, and especially with music. I mean, you can never understand everything there is to know about music. It's impossible.
Oh yeah,
and I think that's part of the beauty of it.
And don't trust anyone that tells you that they understand everything about music. They are full of dookie.
It's like someone saying they understand everything about women. Yeah, right.
Sure. Sure. Or Disney.
Oh man. But yeah, it's sometimes even like imperfections and mistakes are like happy mistakes, like a Bob Ross thing, right?
Okay.
A happy mistake, in the painting. Maybe you find something else you can create out of that mistake, or maybe the one mistake makes something else turn out a little bit better. And then, so yeah, I mean, it's maybe the white balance. Maybe when you look at it later on, maybe it's actually going to be not as bad as you thought it was.
Well,
or now that's
now,
going to give you some means of improving it better in a different way.
Sure.
Maybe you weren't thinking of for today. That's going to make the next podcast even
I'll
better.
probably fix it in post, and anybody that's watching this is going to be like, it looks fine. What's the issue?
Yeah,
right now, if I think, okay, if I think about it right now, I'm going to turn off all color correction, and this is what it looks like without anything that was fixed.
Now you know what we're talking about.
Color corrections back on. Hollywood, baby.
Projection.
Yeah, I'm at
tricks.
So
maybe that's the key. Maybe we got to take a page out of Disney's book and start doing this on a projector.
Yeah, I have one set up over there.
There you go.
So, well, you know what, Nicholas? I think that we have managed to come full circle on this conversation.
Yeah,
I think we went down some fun paths. We talked about plenty of things. I talked about myself a little bit too much, but that's okay.
I did too.
Well, that's the point. This is the Nicholas Hour.
This is the Nicholas Show.
Yes. Hello and welcome to the Nicholas Show.
Welcome to the Nicholas Show.
But thank you. I'm glad that we got to sit down and chat.
I was really excited to be asked to do this. I'm glad I got to come out and do it.
Yeah, I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule. I appreciate you
don't remind me.
attempting to help me with the lighting and the camera stuff. And thank you.
I just had a thought. I'm kind of excited. I have this crazy busy week. I'm going to go home tonight and write music for drums and do this whole week of band camp. And like I told you earlier, is one of my favorite things is to watch where this starts every year and see where it progresses. So by the time we're watching this, it's going to be pretty far through that process. And I'm kind of excited to look back at this conversation and kind of where my head was today.
Yeah.
And then be able to it's going to remind me of like all the effort and that the kids put in this week and all the hard work, dude. It's band camp, it's not like this one time at band camp. I mean, it's a lot of work, and these kids, they work their asses off, and it's really impressive to see everything that they do and do together.
Hell yeah.
So, but yeah, I'm excited. By the time we're actually watching this, by the time you're watching this, that this week is going to be well far and gone. But yeah, I'm excited to kind of like come back to that mind space and when the time comes, that if that makes sense, that
totally
we've already gone through all that stuff with the marching band and see where they are at that time when I'm watching this and reminiscing and thinking about like, oh, we were just getting into that work and getting that all done. So once it's going to be like a few weeks down the road, their show's going to be on the field. They're all going to have their music memorized. They're going to be even a better bonded family and group of friends and everything. So Yeah, that's like I said, it's a huge passion thing for me, and it's a great activity to be involved with.
Hell yeah.
And I always recommend if anybody watching, if you have kids that are into music, get them into band in school, get them into marching band. It's a really great experience, and I mean, you learn so many like life lessons. You make best friends. Like, it's amazing, especially for new kids coming up into school. You have the entire marching band, which in most schools is one of the largest student organizations. You have new kids coming into school that they have all those friends day one, and that's an advantage those kids have over kids coming in just that never got a chance to like meet anybody coming into high school. And it's it's a scary kind of like transition. I'm sure you remember like your first day of high school. Like you go to a new school, there's all these new people you've never seen. You don't know who you can trust, right? You come in after doing marching band all summer, and you got 100 kids you could run into, say hi to you in the hall and everything, and it's a really great opportunity for these kids.
Hell yeah.
But yeah. Anyways, now they're rambling, but
all good.
Yeah.
So
I'm on little sleep, so I apologize for that.
It's super cool. It's super cool. So
I'm in that marching band mindset that I get in like this time every year.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. It's fun though. Total band nerd, no shame.
No, that's good.
But I was in the drum line, so it's
I think it's good to know what you like, embrace what you like,
absolutely,
and be unforgiving about what you like.
Hey, and today it's cool to be a nerd, isn't it? It's
like,
where I feel like when we were younger, like nerds got made fun of. Now, like all the nerdy stuff that was like nerdy back then is like you got like the Avengers is like all over the place, like Star Wars, like that stuff's out there, and it's like the cool thing to be into now.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah, nerds. It's cool to be a nerd now. Be a nerd.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
All right, you fucking nerd.
Yeah. Nerd.
So Big Atlantic. Big Atlantic is the band. Anything else you want to promo or tell people to check out?
Check out Big Atlantic. We got some new music coming out we're really excited about. It's not finished yet, but it's getting there. Wonder's Descent has new stuff coming out. There's a lot of good stuff going on around Pittsburgh, and a lot of cool things. And it's cool to have like my hand in all these different parts of it and be involved in different ways. With whether it's taking photos for bands, doing music videos, and those are kind of like more like side passion gigs that I'm gaining interest in and trying to improve and learn on. But yeah, Big Atlantic. No release date yet for our new music, but we're getting in the studio. We were just down there on the 4th of July, recording some new music. We got a whole bunch of songs that we're dying to just get finished and get out there. And hopefully in the next couple months, we're going to be having some new stuff out.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming by. I guess I'm going to do an outro. And that is all, folks. Thanks so much for being here one more time. Nicholas.
Cheers.
Hufnagel?
Hufnagel. You
got Hufnagel. I remembered.
That works. I get like
Nagel.
You get Hufnagel's the German pronunciation. You get like Huffennagel, Hufnagli. Like people spell it all different ways. Like
fair enough. Well, Nicholas, thank you for being here. I'll be back again next week with another episode. Same time, same place, same channel. You know the drill. My name is Sykes, but feel free to call me Brian because Sykes is ridiculous. Start the Beat is the name of the podcast. 2021 is the year. Whoop, whoop is the motto. Goodbye. That outro was complete trash, but that's okay. It was a podcast. We did it.
Yeah, we made it through.
All right.
My first podcast actually too.
Really?
Yeah.
Good job.
I came in.
Me too.
Yeah. I came in like totally not knowing.